The quantum detection array at Europa Station wasn't supposed to find anything interesting during its routine sweep of the outer solar system. Dr. Sarah Chen had run these scans thousands of times before, searching for anomalies in space-time that might indicate natural wormholes or exotic matter. But on this ordinary Tuesday in 2157, the array detected something that would change humanity's destiny forever. "That's impossible," she whispered, staring at the readings. The quantum signatures suggested a massive object was perfectly matching Earth's orbit around the Sun, yet remaining completely invisible to conventional detection methods. Within hours, every major space agency and research institution was analyzing the data. Within days, they had proof. Humanity was being washed. The Nexus Collective revealed themselves 3 weeks later. Their massive ship, nearly the size of Earth's moon, day-cloaked in a display of technological supremacy that left no doubt about their advanced capabilities. The ship was a perfect sphere, its surface an ever-shifting array of geometric patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. First contact should have been humanity's greatest moment. Instead, it became our greatest insult. "We have observed your species for the past century," announced High Observer Kilaxis, their holographic form hovering above the United Earth Council chamber in Geneva. The alien's crystalline body structure refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, but their words cut like knives. "And we have found you wanting." The collective, it turned out, had been watching humanity since our first radio signals reached space. They'd witnessed our world wars, our environmental struggles, our political divisions, and our rapid technological advancement. But unlike other species they'd encountered, humans showed what they called dangerous advancement patterns. "Your species develops technology faster than your wisdom grows," Kilaxis continued. "You create weapons before you fully understand their implications. You split the atom and immediately built bombs. You developed AI and immediately weaponized it. You reached for the stars while still fighting among yourselves. The collective cannot risk such an unstable species joining galactic society." Dr. Chen, now serving as humanity's chief scientific liaison, fought back. "But we've learned from our mistakes. We've unified our governments, restored our environment, created sustainable fusion power. You have achieved these things precisely because of the threats they pose to your survival," another observer interrupted. "Your species advances through crisis, not wisdom. This makes you unpredictable, dangerous." The collective's judgment was final. Earth and its solar system would be placed under quarantine. No human ships would be allowed beyond the containment field they would establish. No trade, no cultural exchange, no sharing of technology. We would become prisoners in our own solar system. The announcement sparked global protests, diplomatic appeals, and eventually, desperate military actions. Humanity launched everything we had at the containment field when it began forming: nuclear weapons, antimatter torpedoes, quantum disruptors. Nothing even scratched it. But in our darkest moment, something unexpected happened. Dr. Chen, analyzing the containment field's quantum structure, started laughing during a crucial UN Security Council meeting. "Don't you see?" she said, her eyes bright with revelation. "They'd given us exactly what we needed. A perfect laboratory. The containment field isn't just a barrier. It's the most advanced piece of technology humanity has ever encountered. And they've put it right in front of us to study." She stood up, her holographic presentation showing the field's complex quantum structure. "They think they're containing us, but they're actually giving us unprecedented access to their technology. Every weapon we launch teaches us more about how their systems work. Every scan reveals new principles of physics we never imagined." The Security Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed isolation would stifle humanity's growth. Instead, they had given humanity a puzzle to solve, a challenge to overcome, and most dangerously of all, something to prove. They think we advance through crisis. Dr. Chen smiled. "Let's show them just how right they are." As the containment field shimmered in Earth's sky like a second atmosphere, humanity began its greatest scientific endeavor yet. The collective meant to imprison us, but they had forgotten something crucial about human nature. We have never encountered a cage we couldn't turn into a classroom, a laboratory, or a workshop. The quarantine had begun, but so had humanity's greatest period of advancement. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the collective had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake in their million-year history. 5 years into the quarantine, the solar system had become unrecognizable. The containment field that the Nexus Collective had placed around our solar system glowed with a subtle iridescence, a constant reminder of our imprisonment. But within that sphere, humanity had been busy. Mars, once a distant dream of colonization, now hosted thriving cities beneath its red surface. The quantum energy emissions from the containment field had unexpectedly accelerated terraforming efforts, teaching humanity new principles of atmospheric manipulation. The collective's cage was becoming our greenhouse. In her new role as director of the United Earth Science Division, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Olympus Station, watching the massive quantum arrays that now circled every major planet in the solar system. Each array was designed to study a different aspect of the containment field, piecing together the puzzle of the collective's advanced technology. Director, you need to see this. Dr. James Rodriguez, her chief quantum physicist, called from the main laboratory. His holographic form materialized beside her, excitement evident in his expression. We finally cracked their quantum encryption protocols. The breakthrough was significant. The containment field wasn't just a barrier, it was a massive computer network, constantly processing and adjusting to maintain its integrity. By understanding its programming, humanity could begin to understand how the collective thought. "Show me," Sarah said, following his hologram back to the lab. The quantum displays filled the room with shifting patterns of light, each representing billions of calculations happening every second. The collective's technology isn't actually more advanced than what we're theoretically capable of, James explained, manipulating the holographic data with practiced ease. They just took a completely different path of development. While we focused on brute force approaches, bigger engines, stronger materials, they focused on efficiency and integration with natural laws. Sarah studied the data, a smile slowly spreading across her face. They don't overpower physics. They persuade it. Exactly. And here's the beautiful part. Their containment field is teaching us their entire technological history. Every solution, every innovation they developed over millions of years, it's all encoded in the field's operating principles. But the collective's technology wasn't the only thing humanity was learning. The quarantine had forced the nations of Earth to unite in ways that previous crises never had. With no external trade or expansion possible, humanity had turned inward, developing closed-loop resource systems and zero-waste technologies that would have seemed impossible just years earlier. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a network of automated mining and manufacturing facilities. Jupiter's moons hosted massive fusion research installations, using the contained environment to test increasingly ambitious energy generation methods. Even the space between planets had been put to use, with vast fields of quantum sensors and energy collectors stretching across the solar system. Most importantly, humanity had learned patience. The initial rage at their imprisonment had transformed into methodical determination. Each breakthrough was carefully documented, each new technology thoroughly tested. The collective had wanted to contain humanity's chaotic development, but they had inadvertently created the perfect environment for focused, purposeful advancement. Sarah's contemplation was interrupted by another alert, this one from the Deep Space Monitoring Station near Pluto. "Director," the AI's calm voice announced, "we're detecting unusual activity beyond the containment field. The collected ships are moving in patterns we've never observed before." The quantum displays shifted to show the space beyond their prison. Hundreds of collective vessels were moving in complex formations, their energy signatures suggesting urgency. Something had disturbed the galaxy's self-appointed guardians. "They're afraid," Sarah realized, watching the frantic movements. Not of us. Something else has them spooked. James nodded, adjusting the sensors for a better view. Should we try to contact them? Our new understanding of their quantum networks might let us pierce the communication barrier. Sarah considered the option carefully. The collective had ignored all previous attempts at communication since implementing the quarantine. But now, something had changed. The galaxy's wardens were running from something, and humanity had spent the last 5 years turning their prison into a fortress. No, she decided, straightening her uniform. Let them come to us. When they do, they'll find we're not the same species they locked away 5 years ago. We're not just surviving in here, we're thriving. She turned to face the assembled scientists and engineers, their faces both physical and holographic filling the vast laboratory. Continue the research. Accelerate the deep space monitoring. Whatever has the collective running might eventually come our way, and I want us ready. As if in response to her words, the containment field flickered briefly, its quantum structure shifting in ways their sensors had never detected before. The collective's perfect cage was showing its first signs of strain, not from humanity's efforts to break out, but from something outside trying to break in. Humanity had spent 5 years studying every aspect of their prison. They had learned its strengths, its weaknesses, and most importantly, how to make it their own. The collective had meant to contain humanity's chaos, but instead, they had given it focus. They had tried to limit humanity's growth, but had instead accelerated it. And now, as unknown threats gathered in the darkness beyond their solar system, the galaxy's self-appointed guardians might learn that their greatest mistake wasn't caging humanity. It was teaching us everything we needed to know about their technology, while giving us the perfect environment to perfect our own. The quarantine wasn't ending, but its purpose was about to change in ways the collective never could have predicted. The message came exactly 6 years, 2 months, and 15 days after the quarantine began. It arrived not through conventional channels, but through the quantum structure of the containment field itself, a feat that should have been impossible. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the holographic representation of High Observer Kilaxis materialize in the United Earth Council chamber, their crystalline form noticeably less pristine than during their last appearance. "We require assistance," the observer stated, each word seemingly painful to pronounce. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Sarah remained silent, studying the quantum fluctuations in the observer's transmission. Something had damaged their communication systems severely enough that they'd been forced to hijack their own containment field to deliver this message. "The swarm approaches," Kilaxis continued. "They consume everything in their path. Technology, resources, entire civilizations. Our defenses fail. Our calculations indicate they will reach your sector in approximately 3 standard cycles." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and controlled. "And why should we help those who imprisoned us?" The observer's crystalline form flickered. "You misunderstand. We do not seek your help in fighting. We seek sanctuary. The containment field around your system. It is the strongest barrier ever created. We request permission to shelter our civilian fleet behind it." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the chamber. The very cage meant to contain humanity was now seen as a shield by its creators, but Sarah had already moved past irony to implications. "Show us everything you have on this swarm," she demanded. "Full technical specifications, battle records, strategic analyses, everything." The data transfer that followed lasted 6 hours. The swarm, it turned out, was a machine consciousness that had evolved far beyond its creators' intentions. It consumed technological civilizations, incorporating their innovations into itself. The collective's highly standardized, efficiently optimized technology had proven particularly vulnerable. Once the swarm had cracked their basic operational principles, they could subvert almost all collective systems. In the primary conference room of Olympus Station, Sarah reviewed the data with her team. "Look at their attack patterns," she pointed out. "The swarm doesn't just copy technology. It follows the logic of that technology to its natural conclusion. They're predictable because they're perfectly rational. Dr. James Rodriguez nodded, manipulating the holographic battle displays, and the collective's response is equally predictable. They keep trying the same defensive strategies, just with more power, more ships, more resources. Because they don't know how to think differently, Sarah concluded. Their million years of optimization has become their greatest weakness. They have no chaos to draw upon, no irrationality to exploit. She turned to the observer's hovering form. We'll help you, but not by hiding behind our walls. We're going to show you how humanity fights. The next 2 weeks were a flurry of activity throughout the solar system. The quantum arrays that had spent years studying the containment field were repurposed, their findings turned into weapons and defenses that operated on principles the collective had never considered. Humanity hadn't just learned how collective technology worked, they'd learned how to make it work differently. You've developed quantum phase shifting, Kilaxis asked, watching human ships pass through the containment field as if it wasn't there. No, Sarah corrected, leading them through the massive war room that had been constructed inside Ceres. We developed quantum phase dancing. Your ships shift between states in predictable patterns. Ours randomize their quantum states constantly. The swarm can't predict what will be from moment to moment because we don't know either. The observer's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been anxiety. That is incredibly dangerous. The energy requirements alone are handled by our fusion reactors, which we redesigned using principles we learned from your containment field. You taught us efficiency, observer. We taught ourselves controlled chaos. The first battle against the swarm proved everything Sarah had theorized. The machine consciousness, encountering human military doctrine for the first time, found itself unable to adapt to strategies that defied conventional logic. Human ships performed maneuvers that sacrificed efficiency for unpredictability, used weapons that risked self-damage for greater effect, and employed tactics that no rational analysis could have predicted. The swarm's first wave didn't just fail, it failed spectacularly. Their attempts to assimilate human technology were thwarted by systems that actively mutated their own operating principles. Their perfect predictions were shattered by battle plans that incorporated randomness as a core feature, not a bug. Impossible, Kilaxis whispered, watching the battle recordings. Your ship's tactics appear completely irrational, yet they achieve optimal results. Sarah smiled. We call it controlled chaos. Every human commander has the authority to deviate from the battle plan if they see an opportunity. Every ship can reconfigure its systems on the fly. We don't just accept uncertainty. We weaponize it. The observer turned their crystalline face toward her. This is why we quarantined your species. This chaos, this unpredictability, is exactly what the galaxy needs right now, Sarah finished. You tried to contain us until we learned to be like you. Instead, we learned to be more like ourselves, but better. Focused. Refined. We turned our chaos into a science all its own. As the combined human collective fleet prepared for the swarm's main assault, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the universe's sense of irony. The collective had imprisoned humanity to protect the galaxy from our chaos. Now that same chaos might be the only thing that could save it. The containment field still shimmered above Earth, but its meaning had changed. It was no longer a prison. It was humanity's proof of concept. We had taken the most advanced technology in the galaxy and learned not just to understand it, but to transform it. The chains meant to bind us had become the foundation of our liberation. And as the swarm approached for what would become known as the Battle of Sol, humanity prepared to show the galaxy exactly why trying to contain us had been the collective's greatest mistake. The Battle of Sol began not with a bang, but with silence. Complete communications blackout. The swarm had learned enough from their first defeat to know that disrupting human command and control should be their primary objective. They didn't realize that this was exactly what humanity had trained for. Initiate Protocol Darkwater, Dr. Sarah Chen ordered from the Ceres Command Center. Across the solar system, human ships went dark, their quantum communication systems shutting down completely. The collective observers watched in horror as humanity's fleet seemingly disbanded, each ship going its own way without any apparent coordination. "What are you doing?" High Observer Calaxis demanded. "Without central coordination, the fleet will be destroyed." Sarah's smile was sharp in the holographic light. "Watch and learn why humans spent centuries playing games." Each human ship captain had trained for this moment, not through complex military simulations, but through multiplayer video games. Years of competitive gaming had taught humanity something the swarm could never understand: how to act as part of a team with incomplete information. The swarm's main fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, a vast cloud of biomechanical ships that blotted out the stars. Their first wave encountered nothing but empty space where human defense lines should have been. The machine consciousness parsed this data, attempting to predict humanity's strategy based on known military doctrines. It was the last mistake they would make. Human ships erupted from hiding places throughout the solar system, inside hollow asteroids, masked by solar flares, hidden in quantum probability shadows that the collective had never thought to use as camouflage. Each captain knew their role in dozens of possible battle plans, choosing which to execute based on the situation they found rather than central commands. "Fascinating," Calaxis observed, watching the battle unfold. "They appear to be operating on some form of swarm intelligence themselves, but with individual decision-making capabilities that our analysts claim should make coordination impossible. We call it emergence," Dr. James Rodriguez explained, monitoring the quantum battle networks. "Complex, ordered behavior arising from simple rules and chaos. Each captain knows the mission objectives and basic protocols. How they achieve them is up to them." The swarm's attempts to predict and counter human tactics failed spectacularly. Every time they adapted to one strategy, human ships would switch to another, not through any central command, but through individual captains recognizing patterns and opportunities. It was like trying to play chess against an opponent who could change the rules mid-game. But the real surprise came when the swarm attempted to assimilate human technology. They successfully captured several human ships, absorbing their technology as they had done countless times before. Within minutes, those ships began to malfunction. "Did you really think we wouldn't plan for this?" Sarah asked the bewildered observer. "Every piece of human technology is designed to trap anything that tries to assimilate it. The more they absorb, the more chaos they introduce into their own systems." The swarm's perfect machine consciousness began to fragment as it tried to integrate human technology that actively resisted standardization. Ships that had been absorbed turned against their new controllers, their systems running on principles that defied the swarm's logical frameworks. In the chaos of battle, humanity's greatest weakness, our unpredictability, had become our greatest weapon. The swarm couldn't adapt to human tactics because those tactics were constantly evolving, not through careful planning, but through thousands of individual decisions made in the heat of moment. "You've turned warfare into a game," Calaxis realized, watching human ships perform maneuvers that sacrificed tactical advantage for strategic surprise. "No," Sarah corrected. "We turned games into warfare. Every human child who ever played a video game learned how to make quick decisions with incomplete information. Every strategy game taught us how to think unpredictably. Every team sport showed us how to coordinate without perfect communication." The battle raged for 3 days. The swarm, for the first time in its existence, found itself unable to achieve tactical superiority. Its perfect logical processes were corrupted by human chaos, its predictive algorithms rendered useless by strategies that even the humans themselves hadn't planned. On the 4th day, the remnants of the swarm retreated, their once perfect unity shattered by the infection of human unpredictability. They had come expecting to find easy prey protected by impressive, but ultimately predictable defenses. Instead, they had found hunters who turned their own perfection against them. In the aftermath, as human ships regrouped and damage reports flooded in, High Observer Calaxis approached Sarah with what appeared to be deep contemplation. "We believed we were protecting the galaxy by containing your species," they admitted. "We were wrong. We were not containing chaos. We were preventing the evolution of a new kind of order. Sarah nodded, watching the quantum displays show the swarm's scattered remnants fleeing toward the galactic rim. Chaos isn't the opposite of order, she said. It's the mother of it. Life itself emerged from chaos. Intelligence emerged from random neural connections. And humanity's strength emerged from our ability to embrace uncertainty while giving it purpose. The containment field still surrounded the solar system, but now it stood as a monument to the collective's greatest miscalculation. They had tried to cage humanity until we became predictable. Instead, they had given us the perfect environment to refine our chaos into something even more powerful, controlled unpredictability. As the combined fleet regrouped, preparing to hunt down the remaining swarm elements, the galaxy was about to learn a lesson that humanity had known since our earliest days. The most dangerous predator isn't the strongest or the most technologically advanced. It's the one you can't predict. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, the containment field surrounding Earth's solar system finally came down. Not because the collective deactivated it, but because humanity had learned enough to simply phase it out of existence. The barrier that had been meant to contain humanity had become obsolete, not through force, but through understanding. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Council station, watching representatives from hundreds of species file into the Grand Chamber. The station hung in space at the exact spot where the containment field had once marked the boundary of humanity's prison. Now it marked something very different, the center of a new era in galactic civilization. The irony is not lost on us, High Observer Kilaxis admitted, their crystalline form now bearing the scars of the war against the swarm. We imprisoned you to protect galactic civilization. Now you are its guardians. Sarah watched as human ships patrolled alongside collective vessels, their quantum signatures deliberately mismatched to prevent any future hostile force from predicting their movements. We never wanted to be guardians, she said. We just wanted to explore, to learn, to grow. You forced us to become something more. The aftermath of the Swarm War, as it came to be known, had reshaped galactic politics entirely. The collective's perfect order had been proven vulnerable, while humanity's controlled chaos had shown itself to be surprisingly resilient. But it wasn't just military matters that had changed. Humanity's approach to technology, to problem-solving, even to civilization itself had begun to influence species across the galaxy. Your quarantine had an unexpected effect. Dr. James Rodriguez explained to a group of alien scientists, their varied forms clustered around a quantum display. By forcing us to solve problems within limited boundaries, you taught us to think in new ways. We couldn't expand outward, so we expanded inward. We couldn't access new resources, so we learned to use what we had more creatively. The changes were spreading throughout galactic civilization. Species that had once prided themselves on perfect efficiency began experimenting with controlled randomness in their systems. Civilizations that had relied on central planning for millennia started incorporating elements of emergence and self-organization. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the galaxy viewed chaos itself. The collective had spent millions of years trying to impose perfect order on the universe. Humanity had shown them something different: how to surf the waves of chaos, how to use uncertainty as a tool rather than treating it as an enemy. We're establishing the first Chaos Engineering Academy, Sarah announced to the Galactic Council, not to teach disorder, but to teach resilience. Every system, from quantum computers to planetary governments, needs elements of controlled unpredictability to remain adaptable. The council chamber, once dominated by the crystalline forms of the collective, now housed representatives from every spacefaring species. Each had seen how humanity's approach had defeated an enemy that perfect order couldn't handle. Each had realized that their survival might depend on learning what humanity had discovered during their years of imprisonment. But there's something you should understand, Sarah continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We're not here to replace the collective's order with our chaos. We're here to show you the strength that lies between the two extremes. She gestured to the holographic display showing the known galaxy. The swarm was defeated not just because we were unpredictable, but because we knew when to be unpredictable and when to be ordered. Not because we embraced chaos, but because we learned to use it purposefully. The containment field that had surrounded Earth's solar system was gone, but its lessons remained. Humanity had taken the prison meant to teach them order and used it to perfect their chaos instead. Now, as the galaxy faced an uncertain future, that refined chaos was becoming its greatest asset. "We don't want to be your rulers or your guardians," Sarah concluded, addressing not just the Council but the billions watching the transmission across the galaxy. "We want to be your teachers. Let us show you what we learned in our prison, not just how to survive chaos, but how to thrive in it." As she finished speaking, the quantum displays showed human ships moving out across the galaxy, not as conquerors or even protectors, but as guides. Each carried the lessons learned during humanity's imprisonment: how to turn limitations into advantages, how to find strength in uncertainty, and most importantly, how to remain unpredictable without becoming uncontrolled. The collective had imprisoned humanity because they feared our chaos would destroy galactic civilization. Instead, that chaos had saved it, and in the process, created something entirely new. A civilization that didn't just tolerate uncertainty, but used it as a foundation for growth. As the council session ended, and the new era of galactic civilization officially began, Sarah couldn't help but smile at the ultimate irony. The collective had tried to teach humanity to be more like them. Instead, they had forced humanity to become more fully ourselves than we had ever been before. The prison was gone, but its greatest lesson would echo across the galaxy forever. True strength lies not in imposing order on chaos, but in learning to dance with it. And humanity, it turned out, made excellent dance instructors.